65 Sports, our good friend Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. And Olin, it's been an eventful few weeks, obviously, at A&M, from Jimbo Fisher's dismissal to the hiring of Mike Elko. Collin Klein's there, the transfer portal. I know that you have been extremely busy chasing all this down. Let's start, because we haven't had you on since Mike Elko got hired, but your thoughts about the Mike Elko hire and how you've already seen it change kind of the trajectory of where A&M is going.
Well, first of all, I thought he was the obvious guy, and I was surprised that it came out that they were pursuing, or at least interested in, Stoops, Mark Stoops. When that came out, I was like, what? Okay. But then I guess there was somewhat of a revolt, if you believe that narrative, and I kind of do. And I think Mike, as soon as he got here, he hit the ground running. He's made some changes in his coaching staff. He's hired some coaches, and he's already active in really active in the transfer portal. I think he's extended the offers to about 10 guys already. Met with the team. Some guys, from what I understand, there were some guys that showed up late for the first meeting and let them know that they don't have to be here. So I think he's already in the process of putting a more a little bit more discipline than some of them are used to here. At least that's what we're hearing from people inside the program. And from what I understand, he's got in contact with recruits. So nobody's been more busy or busier than him, because he's had to address a lot of issues in a very short period of time.
Olin, maybe somebody had a flat tire, but not a great first impression, huh? The brand new coach is here and you decide, I'm going to show up late to the first meeting that he holds.
Again, I'm not inside. We can only get what some people tell us. Sometimes they're players and sometimes they're other people that are close to the program, and that wasn't necessarily, from what we're told, that unusual. So, if you kind of look at the way things are going here, maybe that gives a little bit of an explanation, or a little bit of a glimpse into maybe what some of the underlying issues are.
It sure does. It explains a lot, for sure. So, Olin, like you said, there is a lot to unpack. I think the biggest thing here in the last 24 hours, though, has been that hire at offensive coordinator with Collin Klein coming over from Kansas State. Kansas State fans, for the most part, are devastated. He's one of their guys, as you know, but also did a really good job there with that Wildcats offense. What are your thoughts on the hire of Klein, why it makes sense for Elko, and what that does for A&M and their offense and their attack moving forward?
Well, it sounds good to me, but you guys probably know more about him than I do, because, you're following the Big 12, and right. Quite frankly, when I see Kansas State, for the most part, it was in the Big 12 championship game last year, and maybe some highlights here and there. But my attention is always on what's going on in the SEC. Now, it's my understanding. I looked at the stats, and I saw how productive their offense was. Do I have this wrong? Were they ranked like number 10th in the country in scoring, or maybe I got that wrong? You go through so many stats in your mind. They get all jumbled up. At least they do it in my mind. But it's my understanding that, they were pretty, I don't know if I want to call it electric, because I didn't get to see them, but very efficient and effective. And quite frankly, to my knowledge, and again, you guys know this better than me, who's the great player in that Kansas State offense?
That's
last year's Deuce Vaughn.
Last year's Deuce Vaughn, but
right.
this year,
team NFL running back.
Yeah, this year was, kind of the model of just using what you had. They had good players They
had good players. They had a top 25 offense. They're still really good. They just weren't as good without a program defining type of a player like a Deuce Vaughn was. He was just so incredibly good for them. But yeah, they ran into some injuries. But they were a fun offense and a little bit different depending on if they had, Will Howard at quarterback versus Avery Johnson at quarterback and that kind of thing. But yeah, they were a lot of fun to watch.
Well, that's kind of what I'm getting at. They were, again, from what I understand, a very effective offense. Mm-hmm. They were able to score a lot of points, move the ball. I think they were here. Texas is playing them for the national championship. And it's my understanding they were like on the 4-yard line against Texas and could have forced overtime but tried to win it. So, and you're doing that again without, I don't want to sound like I'm putting anybody down. Let's just, without marquee offensive players. Maybe that's fair. So, look, he's going to have a chance to to work with some good players, we think, depending on who's still around. But we think he's going to have a chance to work with some good players. And look, if he can, if he can be a defibrillator for that offense that's flatlining, then he'll be able to run from air around here because people have just gotten so frustrated with the stagnant offense that Jimbo Fisher refused to acknowledge was a problem.
Yeah, certainly did. It was like, you're not bleeding. No, fine. Don't worry about it. Like it was that kind of vibe you got from Jimbo Fisher on the offense. Well, defensive side of the ball, though, I guess there's a lot of concern. There should be a lot of concern. You're losing Walter Nolan if you're A&M, and he's in the portal. I would have thought that Mike might have been able to keep Mike Elko would have been able to keep him. Is this Walter Nolan just trying to cash in? Is he upset, mad about something? What happened?
I would think maybe there's a lot of those things you just mentioned may be in play. I mean, it's not out of the. I haven't talked to Walter, so I don't want to act like I'm saying something I know. But I think it's not out of the realm of possibility. I think we've seen it here. I think we've seen it other places where players will put themselves in the portal to see what to be offered out there. Of course, just because you're in the portal doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be transferring. Edric Cooper was in the portal last year. A&M persuaded him to stay, and he had an All-American type of year. So maybe it'll be the same with Walter, but here's one big difference. Let me tell you, Elijah Robinson was the most popular coach on that team, especially after the tragic passing of Terry Price. And he recruited a lot of those guys. He's really close to the defensive lineman. And with his deciding to take that defensive coordinator position at Syracuse, a lot of players, I think, that were close to him, it's not surprising that if he's not going to be here, a lot of their loyalty was with him. So it's not surprising that you'd see some defensive linemen get in and at the very least check out, see what else is out there.
Olin, I do believe Elijah Robinson is going to coach in the bowl game. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
He did say that he was going to stick it out through the bowl game. And, he said all the right things about, Texas A&M being good in, and he has a job to do and yada, 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 yada.
Gotcha.
And then I said, so are you going to recruit any of the guys on A&M? He said, no, it's not. No, I'm the coach of A&M. But
right.
It's like in the portal.
Well, also, there's a big 5-star D lineman from A&M in there. Yeah, he might change his mind on that.
If they're in the portal, then that's a different story.
Yeah, they're not technically at A&M anymore. Yeah,
but he's done a great job here, and he is beloved. And they wish him the best as long as, but they hope that he doesn't get any players from A&M in the portal. But I would not be surprised if that turns out to be the case.
So when it comes to the portal outside of Walter Nolan, who are some of the names? Because I've seen the names trickling across, but you've seen that from like every school in America, right? There's all the hundreds and hundreds of names. Anybody stand out to you in a major factor type of a way, whether they're a young guy that could have developed more or whether there's somebody who right now is producing outside of Walter Nolan?
Well, I think a young guy that could have developed more is Chase Basantes. They started him at right tackle this year as a true freshman. He had some struggles, as you would expect a true freshman to have. And plus, there are those that say his natural position is in the interior line. And they had him out at tackle. So if you judged him on this year, which would be foolish, you'd think, okay, not a big loss. But there's a guy with an awful lot of potential. But he was really tied to Steve Adazio, the offensive line coach, who was let go last week. So his getting into the portal once Adazio was let go was pretty predictable. I think Tariq Chappelle was their best cornerback. He's from Philadelphia. So, Philadelphia, not too far from Syracuse. Maybe that's going to be an option for him. Or again, we'll see if A&M's able to persuade him to stay. Jake Johnson had a nice year at tight end. No one is surprised that he is in the portal. Of course, we expected it as soon as his brother Max, because we knew his brother Max was going to be getting into the portal. So we figured as soon as his brother Max landed somewhere, he'd probably, and Max, I don't know if you saw it, he's transferring to North Carolina. So I suspect we'll hear that Jake Johnson will be going to North Carolina pretty soon. Beyond that, I don't know that. I mean, Jardine Gilbert is a safety that started here last year. I think he got hurt this year, and Jacoby Matthews took his place, looked better. Beyond those few right there, a lot of the guys in are really guys that haven't played a lot and is probably looking for an opportunity to play elsewhere.
Olin, I know that a lot of people have made, Evan Stewart's definitely getting the portal because of the whatever happened at the end of the year and he wasn't at the LSU game and all that, but he seemed to have made it clear that he's staying, right?
I've heard that some coaching changes has inspired some of the receivers to go ahead and wait and see what's going to happen before they go all in. Like, for instance, I would have bet $100 a month ago that Moose Muhammad would be the first guy in the transfer portal. I was always scratching my head. Why is they not playing this guy? Every time he plays, he produces. They didn't play him very often, and so I would have thought for sure he's still around. And Evans been kind of, he was hurt a little bit, and I think Evans, who knows what's going on through Evans, but last year everybody was saying he was going to transfer, and he didn't. So he's an interesting character. I'll say that. I don't know whatever Evans decides won't surprise me. If he stays, I'll say, yeah, I'm not surprised. If he leaves, I'll say, well, I'm not surprised. He has a lot of talent, so I'm sure they're going to try to talk to him and tell him that he has a place here if he wants. They'd like to have him here, but I don't think that they're going to bend over backwards for him, because what does it say? The old line, the best ability is availability.
Yeah.
And when he's available, man, he's a good player for him, but he's not always available.
So, Olin, does it seem like a veil has been lifted or like dark clouds have kind of left the area of College Station right now? Does it feel like things have been a bit refreshed with this change at head coach?
Hell yeah. You know what it is? It's kind of like this. If you're having this analogy I use, you got a problem with your car and you take it to the mechanic. You take it to the same mechanic for 3 years and he keeps saying, yeah, here's the problem. Yeah. And you keep having the same problem and he never tells you anything different. Eventually, you just got to go to a different mechanic. And I think that it became a punchline around here, the word execute. Well, we just got to execute. We got to find the inches. We've got to execute. Got to find the inches. And really, it became a joke. If you had a question about something, you might be talking about something that has nothing to do with football. Hey, they got how long is it taking us a long time to get our food at the restaurant? Well, I guess they didn't execute. It became it, and you're like, well, no crap, there's no execution. But what are you going to do to change that? And so Mike comes in, and again, Mike was well known here for doing a fabulous job as a defensive coordinator, and it just seems like that already they're getting more organized. He's going to hire a special teams coach. We understand. Well, they didn't have a special teams coach, and the special teams were horrible here. So, things like that, you're thinking, okay, that makes sense. Brought in an offensive coordinator that's well-respected. Billy Lucci made a great point about Collin Klein. He said, when A&M hired John Chavis from LSU, the LSU people were saying, hey, take him. And even when they hired Jimbo Fisher, you had a lot of people down in Tallahassee would saying to us, well, you're going to like him at first, but you just watch. It's going to burn out and there's going to be problems. And lo and behold, they're right. Everybody, it seems like in Kansas State's upset that Collin Klein is leaving. And so that's kind of a good sign. So I think so far what Mike has done, gives you, if you're an Aggie fan, some hope where there was none before, because you just felt like you're in this cycle that's just never going to repeat. Like you're at a red light. You know, you ever get at that red light and it's broke and it never changes? And it feels like that's where you were with A&M football. And maybe Mike is that green light. You can start going again. But, of course, everybody feels good about their coach in December, a new coach in December. Let's see how they feel in, next November. But at least now, you feel like you have a reason to believe instead of just saying, well, thank you, sir, might have another.
Yeah. With Jimbo Fisher, there was a lot of ego involved, especially after he won the national championship at Olin at Florida State. And then when he went to A&M, it felt like any kind of questions were challenges to that ego. And at this point, Mike Elko, and I don't mean this as a dig, but like he's got to prove himself to have that same kind of like ego. So that's not a wall that people have to get over right now. He's just there to work.
And let's be clear, the first 3 years, everybody was very pleased with Jimbo. And the program just seemed to be on an upward trajectory. And in the fourth year, okay, his quarterback got hurt, we'll give you a pass. The fifth year, like, okay, now, yeah, you got a lot of injuries, but we sure didn't expect you to lose to Appalachian State and go 5-7. But okay, you had a lot of freshmen. Well, this year, everybody's ready to play, and you just can't get out of your way offensively. And the Emperor had no clothes, and it was obvious. And so something had to be done. Mike has to prove himself, and I think he's willing to do that. And I don't know if you saw the contract. A&M's always going to pay their head coach a lot of money. He's got a base salary of $7 million. He can make up to around $11 million, but that last $4 million is all based on incentives. And he was willing to do that because, first of all, because he gets $7 million. But secondly, he understands that, if you're going to make you're going to get paid like a national championship coach.
Did we lose? There he is. Go ahead, Olin. Sorry, we lost you for 1 second.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm just saying that, he agreed to the incentives because, if you're going to get paid like a national championship coach, maybe he acknowledges that you need to win a national championship and not for the previous team but the team that's currently paying you. So, he agreed to the incentives because he doesn't mind trying to, having to prove himself.
Olin Buchanan, TexAgs.com. Olin, always great to talk to you. Thanks for hopping on.
Thanks for having me.
All right. Olin Buchanan. Yeah, that's an interesting situation in College Station. They're the